Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws and Gunslingers with Bang and Dang Mafia Edition. Yep, that's the time of the month. It's the first
First of the month.
week of the month of March. All the way in March already of 2024, guys. Can you believe it?
Miggity, match.
And we've been on the Gambino since November 7th. So. All right, look at that. Stretching them out, aren't we? Like, if you guys missed our last week's episode, which was the introduction to serial killers. Going forward, first of the episode of the month is going to be Mafia. Then the ones in between are going to be regular true crime shootings and murders and all that stuff. And our last episode of the month is going to be serial killers from here on out. So good stuff, huh, guys? Yay! This week, we've been waiting for that. I got to take the spray.
Whoa. All right.
This is probably the most popular Mafia guy that we're ever going to cover on this whole series.
Ever.
And, of course, we're talking about John Gotti, the successor by force of Paul Castellano.
Yeah, we all know what happened to him.
And, yeah, I mean, this guy's been covered time and time again. There's probably nothing in here that you guys haven't seen before, because especially with the new little Netflix documentary thing that just came out a couple months ago, they covered literally all of it. But maybe there's some of you guys that didn't see that, or you never knew what's going on here. But old John Joseph Jingleheimer Schmidt Gotti Jr.
Right.
Yep, boss of the Gambinos, after he murdered Castellano. And then one of his most trusted allies turned state's evidence against him.
Oh.
And we'll hear all about that. But before we get into that, go check out our YouTube at Bang Dang Network, shorts, clips, exclusives, and our exclusive YouTube Dart League. As well as if you're listening on Apple, Spotify, give us a review, share us with your friends, answer that Spotify question, join our Discord, link in the description, and I think that's it, right? Yeah, give us a like, subscribe, all that, you know, all the clicks.
Oh, good stuff.
John Gotti. Born in the Bronx. This is going to be a long one, too, guys, so it could be our longest one ever. Born Bronx, borough of New York City, October 27th, 1940. He was the fifth of the 13 children of John Joseph Gotti Sr. and Philomena Fanny DiCarlo. Two of those died at birth, though. Gotti's parents were born in New York City, but it is presumed that his grandparents were from San Giuseppe Vesuviano in the Italian province of Naples, because his parents were married and lived there for some time. I guess.
Don't mean nothing.
Right. That's
Well,
what you get
maybe.
for assuming.
I mean, if you do go back to the old country, you probably go back to where your roots are, right?
Probably. I'm assuming if his parents were born there, he's probably got other family there, right?
Right. Gotti was one of 5 bros who became made men in the Gambino crime family. You had Gene Gotti. They call him Old Genie. He was initiated before John due to the latter's incarceration.
Right.
Peter Gotti was initiated under John's leadership in 1988. Richard V. Gotti was identified as a caporegime, a captain or head of a crew. You guys should know that by now, right? He did that in 2002, just as his old bro died, huh? Mm-hmm. The fifth, which was Vincent, he was initiated in 2002 as well. Gotti's father was described in early writings as a hard-working immigrant from the Neapolitan section of Italy. Years later, Gotti would tell a very different story about his daddy. He told that story to Salvatore Sammy the Bull Gravano. Everybody knows who Gravano is, right?
Right, the most infamous mob rat in America. He says, these fucking bums that write books, they're worse than us. My fucking father was born in New Jersey. He ain't never been in Italy his whole fucking life. My mother neither. The guy never worked a fucking day in his life. He was a rolling stone. He never provided for the family. He never did nothing. He never earned nothing. And we never had nothing.
Man, he didn't like his daddy.
That was one of the things on that documentary.
He was a bum!
That everybody was like, oh man, everybody loved John Gotti. He was a superstar. And then when the FBI tapes started coming out and they say, oh, he talked to F word every two words, people are like, wow, this guy's fucking crazy.
Right. While the description of his father's work habits was overblown, the family was raised in a dirt poor, poverty-ridden section of South Bronx. By that very time Gotti was 10 years old, his father had saved enough money to move the family to Sheepshead Bay, Move his family
Sheepsheed.
to the Sheepshead Bay neighborhood of Brooklyn. This proved to be a definite step up from their 4-room flat in South Bronx. 1 year later, after moving, another move placed the family in an area of Brooklyn known as East New York.
Born in East New York, huh? Well, as an adult, as you can probably tell by that quote, Gotti came to resent his father for being unable to provide for his family.
Right.
In school, he had a history of truancy and bullying other students, and ultimately dropped out of Franklin K. Lane High School at the age of 16.
Might as well.
And Gotti was involved in street gangs associated with New York City Mafia from the age of 12. When he was 14, he was attempting to steal a cement mixer from a construction site when it fell, crushed his toes, which left him with a permanent limp for the rest of his life.
No shit.
He had that limp.
Right.
A walk with a limp. Gangster.
Damn, crushed his toes, huh? After he quit school, he became a member of the Fulton Rockaway Boys, a teenage gang named for an intersection in Brooklyn. Usually how they did it, right?
Right.
Gotti rose rapidly to leadership. The Fulton Rockaway Boys differed from the turf-minded teen gangs in that they were into a higher level of criminality. Gang members stole automobiles. They fenced stolen goods and robbed passed-out trucks. Passed-out trucks.
Mac, wake up!
And they robbed passed-out drunks.
I don't know how that's that last one is a higher level of crime, but I guess.
Right. Also, with his brothers Peter and Richard, Gotti teamed up with 2 other younger men who became long-time life friends. Long time. Very good friends. The first was Angelo Ruggiero. He was a hulking youth whose penchant for non-stop chatter earned him the nickname Quack Quack.
Hey, quack, quack.
Yeah, Quack Quack. The second was Wilfred Willie Boy Johnson. He was an amateur boxer whose daddy was of American Indian descent. Johnson was constantly teased, degraded about his roots, and because of it, he could never become a made member of the Mafia.
Because of it. Well, obviously, yeah, American Indian getting in there.
No Indian.
You can be an associate, though. I mean, it's good. What more do you want?
Right.
Jeez. Between 1957 and 61, while a member of the Fulton Rockaway Boys, Gotti was arrested 5 times. Each time, the charges were dismissed or reduced to a probationary sentence.
Oh.
Well, around 1960, when he was 20, Gotti met and fell in love with Victoria DiGiorgio.
Uh-oh.
The petite, raven-haired beauty, she had black hair, guys, was born to a Jewish father.
Oh.
Her parents divorced when she was still an infant, and she later took the last name of her stepfather. 2 years younger than Gotti, DiGiorgio dropped out of high school during her senior year. The two were married March 6, 1962, almost a full year after the birth of their first child, Angela.
Oh, ain't that nice?
Angela Gotti, huh?
That child out of wedlock, huh? Mm-hmm. The marriage proved to be a stormy one, though, with many fights and periods of separation. Yet, despite their problems, the couple went on to have 2 more children in rapid succession. They had a second daughter, Victoria, and then old John Boy came along. He became known as Junior.
Even though he had a totally different middle name, so it can't be a junior.
Right. Around this very time, Gotti actually tried his hand at legitimate white, a coat factory presser, and then a truck driver's assistant. What does a truck driver's assistant do?
Right. Sit there and navigate, maybe.
Man, unloads shit from the back.
Right.
Before ultimately turning all his energies toward a life of crime.
Right.
He's like, baby, those streets are calling my name. There's money out there. Power to be
Had.
Right. Victoria Gotti disparaged her husband's career. She disliked how it made her live. Once, when Gotti was away, serving a 3-year stretch, she was forced to apply for public welfare.
Oh.
Why away? Nobody taking care of him. I guess he wasn't made or anything.
Right.
Another time, she took to her husband to court for non-support. Really?
Bitch.
Years later, FBI bugs would pick up conversations where Gotti talked about his wife, stating, "That woman is driving me crazy."
Driving me fucking crazy. As early as his teens, like we said, he was a criminal. He was running errands for Carmine Fatico, who was a couple in the Gambino family, then known as the Anastasia family, under the leadership of Albert Anastasia. Gotti carried out truck hijackings at Idlewild Airport, which is now JFK International.
Fantastic.
Together with his brother Gene and friend Ruggiero. During this time, Gotti befriended fellow mob hijacker and future Bonanno family boss Joseph Massino.
Oh.
And he was given the nicknames Black John and Crazy Horse.
Oh, shit.
It was around this time that Gotti met his mentor, Gambino underboss Agnello Neo Della Croce.
And yellow. Della Croce.
And yeah, it'll be a big moment.
Right. Gotti, he spent his first time in jail, a 20-day period in 1963, when he was arrested with Salvatore Ruggiero, Angelo's younger bro. They were in a car that had been reported stolen from a rental car agency. Damn, that rental car agencies in 63?
Why not?
Holy shit. Gotti's crimes during the early to mid 60s were mostly petty, larceny, unlawful entry, possession of bookmaking records. 1966 as well, he would spend several months in jail for an attempted theft. Well, not a great hijacker, Gotti was successful enough to move his family to a nicer apartment in Brooklyn.
Look at that.
He and Victoria soon had their fourth child, a second son, who they named Frank.
Hey, Frankie.
Yo, Frank.
Oh, poor Frank.
Frankie, where's your brother? Where's Junior?
November 27th, 1967, Gotti and another crew member, either Angelo Ruggiero or another of Gotti's brothers, Gene, forged the name of a forwarding company agent and then took a rented truck to JFK's United Cargo area, drove off with $30,000 worth of merchandise, a good portion of it in women's clothes. So you know that shit was selling fast. All the little mafioso guys are like, I'm going to get my wife some stuff. 4 days later, the FBI was watching as Angelo and Gotti loaded up again with women's clothing, this time at a Northwest Airlines cargo terminal.
You dummies.
Once outside the airport, an automobile containing Gene Gotti pulled alongside.
Well, the FBI swooped in, arrested 3 men, finding Gotti in the rear of the truck, hiding behind several boxes. During the subsequent investigation, United employees identified John as the man who had signed for the earlier stolen merchandise. That was you, Mr. Gotti. Gotcha. He was arrested for the United hijacking in February of 1968. In April, while out on bail, he was arrested on a third time for hijacking, this time for stealing a load of cigarettes worth about $500,000 outside a restaurant on the New Jersey Turnpike.
That might be a typo because there was other things that I read that it was only 50,000. So take that with a grain of salt. It's either 50 or 500,000. Either or, a lot. Well, at the urging of Carmine Fatico, the Gotti brothers and Angelo hired defense attorney Michael Coro to represent them. John pled guilty to the Northwest hijacking and was sentenced to 4 years at the Lewisburg Federal Penitentiary in Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Prosecutors chopped the charges in the cigarette hijacking, and Coro was able to get the judge to let Gotti plead guilty in the United theft while allowing his Lewisburg time to serve as the penalty. Oh, look at him. It's a good lawyer.
Shit.
Gotti served less than 3 years of his sentence at Lewisburg from May of 1969 and got out in January of 1972.
Well, that worked out. Good for that guy, right? Soon after his release, though, he was transferred to management of the Bergen's crew. He was transferred to management of the Bergen's crew. Bergen?
That's the club that Fatico owned. That's where the crew hang out.
Right. He was transferred to management at the Bergen crew's illegal gambling operation. And he proved himself to be an infected enforcer. Fatico, he was indicted on loan sharking charges in 1972. As a condition of his release, he could not associate with known felons.
No shit. It's probably Fatico, isn't it?
Probably. Gotti, he was not yet a made man due to membership books having been closed following the 1957 Appalachian meeting.
Ain't nobody was allowing nobody.
But Fatico named him acting capo of the Bergen crew soon after he was paroled.
Good for him. In this new role, Gotti frequently traveled to Della Croce's headquarters at the Ravenite Social Club to brief the underboss on the crew's activities. Della Croce had already been taking a liking to Gotti, and the two became even closer during this time. The two were very similar. Both had strong, violent streaks, cursed frequently, and were heavy gamblers. That's a hell of a similar traits, huh?
Right.
After Emmanuel Gambino, a nephew to boss Carlo Gambino, was kidnapped and murdered in 1973. I think we went over this in the Carlo Gambino episode, obviously.
Right.
Gotti was assigned to the hit team alongside Ruggiero and Ralph Gallione to search for the main suspect, who was gangster James McBratney.
Oh, poor James. You a wanted man. Night of 22nd May, 1793.
Yep, 1793.
On the night of the 22nd of May, 1973, McBratney sitting in Snoop's Bar and Grill on Staten Island. About 11 o'clock, John Gotti, Angelo Ruggiero, and Ralphie Wiggs Gallione, they entered and surrounded McBratney. They tried to convince him that they were the police. We're just here to ask you some questions, guy.
Come with me.
Right. The plan was to take him to the parking lot and murder his sorry ass outside with no witnesses.
Right.
Despite the fact that Gallione aimed a gun at him and Ruggiero was holding a pair of handcuffs, McBratney wasn't buying the ruse.
Right, you kind of are missing one important little thing.
Right.
There.
He's like, all right, you cops, let's see your badge.
I didn't even realize I said that. All right. Well, with that, Gallione fired a round into the ceiling. Bar patrons who hadn't already run outside or into the cellar were ordered to stand against the wall. It was now prison muscle against prison muscle. And although McBratney was stronger, he was up against two men, Gotti and Ruggiero. McBratney dragged the two thugs down dragged the two thugs down past the end of the bar before Gallione shot him 3 times at close range, killing him instantly.
Hey.
Holy shit! So John Gotti and the other guy was getting his ass kicked by one guy.
Should have kept this guy around.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, he was Irish, so
Right. July, Ruggiero and Gallione were identified from police photo spread by a barmaid and also a customer from Snoop's. And the men were then apprehended. However, Gotti had not been identified. A month later, he was overheard by Willie Boy Johnson bragging about the moida. Johnson passed the info along to the FBI, to his handlers. He had FBI handlers?
he was an informant at this time.
Oh my. The FBI reported the information to the New York Police Department, which quickly dispatched a detective with Gotti's mugshot to show the witnesses. 17th October, Gotti indicted by a grand jury for murder.
Well, Gotti, who had been strutting around in the wake of the murder, immediately went into hiding. A little over a year after the McBratney killing on June 3rd, 1974, he was finally arrested by the FBI inside a Brooklyn bar and handed over to NYPD.
Wow.
Information as to where his whereabouts had been supplied by Johnson, who was secretly paid $600 for his betrayal.
That's
Jeez. I mean, even in 1974, it's, I mean, it's a little bit of money, but it's not worth your life, buddy.
No. Gotti's in-laws were instrumental in putting up the collateral for his release on a $150,000 bond. Victoria's family, which had already provided John with a visible means of support, also purchased a home for the couple in Howard Beach. Look at these guys. Once out, Gotti went right back to the Virgin to attend to the overseeing of the crew and his new holdings, which included a restaurant and a motel. So he's instantly banking.
Right.
Gotti was also reported at the time to be the hidden owner of a Queens disco. Nice.
On December 21st, 1973, before Ruggiero and Gallione could be tried for the McBratney killing, Ralphie Wiggs was murdered in Brooklyn.
Oh, shit.
When the state brought its case against Ruggiero, the defense produced a host of witnesses and swore that Angelo was in New Jersey the night of the murder. Oh. The trial ended at a hung jury. Gotti hired Roy M. Cohn as his defense lawyer, which is a well-known attorney. Cohn handled many high-profile clients in New York, including Della Croce. Gotti and Ruggiero were to be tried together in a second trial now. Knowing that the earlier trial had ended in a hung jury, Cohn surmised correctly that the prosecution might be willing to deal, and Cohn cut a great one. Gotti and Ruggiero pled guilty to attempted manslaughter. What?
Wow.
That's a fucking great one, I would say. That's a great deal.
All right. 8th of August, 1975. Gotti was sentenced to 4 years in prison, sent to the Green Haven Correctional Facility, 80 miles north of Queens. Joining Gotti there was Willie Boy. Uh-oh. Did they know this guy was?
I don't know. Well, Gotti doesn't.
Wow. Willie Boy Johnson, despite his FBI informant status, had been sent away on an armed robbery conviction. Yeah, because they wanted him close to Gotti still, I bet. Gotti passed the time at Green Haven playing cards. He lifted some weights. And he also attended courses on Italian culture.
Well, good for him, huh?
Right.
He was released from prison July 28, 1977, having served less than 2 years for the moida.
Fantastic.
It was ironic since he'd once served 3 years for hijacking women's clothing.
Right.
Right. To celebrate his return, the Virgin crew purchased a brand new Lincoln Mark IV for him. He soon found out that while he was away, there had been a change in the leadership of the Gambino family, though.
Oh, he's like, wait, what? What do you mean? Where's Della Croce?
Well, that's not the leader.
Right. That's what he's thinking. It is, right? Should be. 15th October, year 1976. Carlo Gambino died tragically at his home of natural causes. Before his death, he let his family consigliere, Joseph N. Gallo, and key capos, James Jimmy Brown Faila,
Fela, probably.
and Ettore Zappi. He said, listen to this. I want the leadership of the family to pass to his cousin. I want Paul Castellano take over. And they're like, Paulie? Really? Really?
But what about Neil?
Right. But there was one sticking point to this change. Aniello Della Croce, the current underboss, who couldn't contest the ruling due to him being in prison. Wow. Thanksgiving Day, 1976. Well, he was released from prison. And he was like, all right, now I can contest, right? Many Gambino family members believed that Della Croce should have been named boss. His years. How many times have people been boss, though, that were in prison?
Not when it got changed, though.
His years of loyalty to the family and the respect and admiration that the street soldiers had for him were just a few of the reasons why everybody wanted him to be boss.
Well, Nevertheless, in December, the upper echelon of the Gambino family met at the home of Capo Anthony Nino Gaggi to officially name a new boss. It was a tense situation. Not knowing what might transpire, Gaggi taped a gun under the kitchen table prior to the meeting. He then armed his nephew, Vietnam veteran Dominic Montiglio, with an automatic weapon. He took up a position in an upstairs apartment which overlooked a doorway leading out of the driveway of Gaggi's house. Oh. If you hear any shots from the kitchen, shoot whoever runs out the door. That's what Gaggi told him. But there was no shootout. Castellano agreed to keep Della Croce as a family underboss.
I mean, that works out, right?
Yeah, did it though?
Well, Della Croce accepted Castellano's succession. The deal effectively split the Gambino family into two.
Yep.
Accepting Castellano's leadership proposal, Della Croce was given several crews to oversee, including the Virgin crew of Carmine Fatico. Well, at least you got that, right?
Yeah.
When Gotti got out of prison, when Gotti was out of prison, the terms of his parole stated that he had to have a legitimate job. So in the summer of 1977, he became a salesman for the Arc Plumbing and Heating Corporation. Well, good for him, right? Years later, when the president of the plumbing company was asked at a hearing what function Gotti performed, he replied, "What John does is point out locations."
That's all he needs to do. Right. Gotti set his sights on the climbing into Carmine Fatico's position as head of the Virgin crew. Fatico had recently beaten 2 loan sharking cases, but he and his brother Daniel, along with crew members Charles and John Carneglia, had been convicted of hijacking. The Faticos pled guilty, hoping to receive probation. One of the government informants reported that Gotti was hoping that his former mentor would be sent away, enabling him to move ahead.
Oh.
Carmine Fatico received 5 years probation, but his reign as capo of the Virgin crew was over.
Bet it was.
Because the terms required that he not associate with known criminals.
Yeah.
Occasionally, Gotti was to seek the elder mafioso's counsel, but they would never meet at the Virgin.
No, right. Why
would you? Right,
Well, at this time, Gotti is still considered an associate and could not officially become the acting capo of the crew until he became a made member of the Gambino family. Sometime during the first half of 1977, Ruggiero, which is he was paroled earlier than John, and then also Gene Gotti, who acted as a crew boss in his brother's absence. They were both made men.
Mm-hmm. They opened up the books again, baby.
Fantastic. According to the informant, another induction ceremony was planned for that year. According to an informant, another induction ceremony. It was planned for later that year upon John's release from the Greenhaven Correctional Facility. In this second rite, Gotti and 8 other men took the Mafia oath of Omerta.
Well, Gotti's crew, he's now officially the capo. Gotti's crew reported directly to Della Croce as part of the concessions given by Castellano to keep Della Croce as the underboss, and Gotti was regarded as Della Croce's protege. Under Gotti, the crew were Della Croce's biggest earners. Besides his cut of subordinates' earnings, Gotti ran his own loan sharking and gambling operation, as well as the no-show job as the plumbing supply guy.
Right, he's got paid every week.
Well, yeah, he's on the books, but he never shows up.
Nice.
Unconfirmed allegations by FBI informants claim that Gotti also financed drug deals, which
maybe.
he probably did.
I'm sure. All right, since Gotti was still on probation, he ordered Virgin crew members not to bring heat on the club. They were told to stop loitering in front of the damn club, man, and park their damn cars elsewhere.
All right.
This was a far cry from what his attitude would be years later.
Yeah, this guy's an idiot.
During the late 70s and early 80s, the FBI snitches reported that Gotti lost heavily at gambling, and crew members were growing concerned because they were unable to make money. It was not unusual for Gotti to drop $30,000 in one night. Damn.
In February 1981, Gotti opened a gambling den on the second floor of the club for family men only. The game operated every night except Saturday, closed it down around 4 a.m.
Holy shit.
In early March, the game moved to Manhattan to a location on Mott Street around the corner from Della Croce's Raven Night Social Club. The game was very popular and drew many gamblers from throughout the city. The crew finally made enough money, even though Gotti continued to lose heavily.
Right.
Jeez,
this guy. Since he was overseeing the game, Gotti could borrow money from the house.
Damn right.
In a move typical of him, he became concerned about those who borrowed from the house and ordered an accountant, only to discover that he owed the most, about $55,000. Bugs and taps on the telephone of a crew member revealed the contempt in which others held Gotti, including Angelo Ruggiero and John's own brother, Gene.
Like, this motherfucker's over here gambling away all of our profits. The fuck? Well, one night, a Queens detective squad watched as Wilfred Johnson handed a package to a drug dealer in exchange for a paper bag that he threw into the trunk of his car. Detectives followed Johnson to his home in Brooklyn. When Willie Boy opened the trunk to get the bag, the detectives approached him. The bag contained $50,000, which Johnson quickly claimed came from the gambling operation. Jesus, it's not mine.
All right.
Gotti.
Jeez.
Still on probation after having served less than 4 years of a 10-year sentence, Johnson got scared. He told the officers to take the money because if his parole officer found out, he would go back to prison.
What a piece of shit.
Oh, he's already an FBI informant. Might as well fucking talk to fucking police, too.
All right. Johnson, who was already working as a FBI informant, now agreed to do the same for the New York City Police.
Yes, sir.
June 1981. He ratted out the Mott Street Gambling Club, and approximately 30 men were arrested. After spending the night in a Manhattan criminal court, the men, which are represented by attorney Michael Corio, pled guilty to misdemeanor gambling charges and were fined $500 and then sent on their merry happy way.
Wow.
That following night, a new operation opened across the street from the raided location. However, the game was never regained its former popularity.
Well, obviously, now everybody's like, that shit's hot.
Right.
Oh, jeez. Gotti mostly tried to distance his personal family from his life of crime, with the exception of his son, John Jr., who was a mob associate by 1982. However, March 18th, 1980, Gotti's youngest son, poor Frankie, 12-year-old, was run over and killed on a family friend's mini bike by a neighbor named John Favara. Frank's death was ruled an accident, but Favara subsequently received death threats and was attacked by Gotti's wife with a baseball bat when he visited to apologize. 4 months later, Favara was abducted and disappeared, presumed murdered.
Oh, you know it.
Gotti is widely assumed to have ordered the murder despite him and his family leaving on vacation to Florida 3 days prior.
Oh.
Doesn't mean that
Right.
he doesn't have to physically do it.
Gee. March 8, 2001. Jerry Capecci's This Week in Gangland. It ran an exclusive account of the John Favara disappearance. In the article, Capecci states that the story was put together from information from present and former law enforcement people who were connected with this very case. He identifies 8 crew members: Angelo Ruggiero, Willie Boy Johnson, Gene
Jeez, they're
Gotti.
still trusting this Willie Boy Johnson.
Right. John and Charles Carneglia, and Anthony Rapino, Richard Gomez, and Iggy Arlonia. He said all these people, they played a role in the abduction and slaying of Favara.
Well, he also says it played out like this. As Favara approached his automobile, he spotted the men and turned to run. John Carneglia dropped him with 2 shots from a .22 caliber silencer-equipped pistol.
How will they know that?
Apparently, all the snitches and shit.
Right.
Favara gasped, no, please, my wife, as he struggled to get off the ground. Gomez, a former hood from Providence, who had joined the Gotti crew in the late 70s, cracked Favara over the head with a 2x4, picked him up and threw him in a van. Another crew member took the victim's skis and followed in Favara's car.
Fantastic. Well, Favara and his car were driven to a salvage yard.
Oh, no, they crushed him.
East New York, operated by Carneglias. There, Favara's body stuffed into a barrel that was then filled with cement. While Charles Carneglia disposed of the barrel in the ocean off of Brooklyn. Well, that's nice. His bro, John, he crushed Favara's car at the salvage yard. No one was ever arrested for the abduction and murder. Alleged murder.
Right.
Alleged abduction.
Right.
1983, Favara's wife had him officially declared dead.
Yeah, but she did. She got to get those benefits, baby.
Right.
Gotti was indicted on 2 occasions in his last 2 years as the capo, with both cases coming to trial after his ascension to boss of the Gambino family. This made him famous. September 84, he had an altercation with a refrigerator mechanic named Ramul Pajcik and was subsequently charged with assault and robbery. 1985, he was indicted alongside Della Croce and several Virgin crew members in a racketeering case by Assistant U.S. Attorney Diane Jacquelone. The indictment revealed that Gotti's friend and co-defendant Wilfred Willie Boy Johnson had indeed been a snitch this whole time. But you know what? That's crazy, too.
Like Wilfred.
That's because in the little documentary on Netflix, everybody's telling this Diane chick, you can't reveal it, because then you're going to get this dude, him and his probably family and all this shit killed. She was like, it doesn't matter. And like literally just wanted to do anything to get a conviction because she was fucking a moron, dude. Seriously.
Dumbass.
Dummy.
Fucking retard. Well, at this time, Gotti was very dissatisfied with Castellano's leadership, regarding the new boss as being too isolated and greedy. What are you, Gotti? Freaking, you're a gambler and you're, like other members of the family, Gotti also personally disliked Castellano.
Yeah.
The boss lacked street credibility, and those who had paid their dues running street-level jobs did not respect him at all. Gotti had an economic interest as well.
Oh, you think?
Yeah, he had a running dispute with Castellano on the split Gotti took from truck hijackings at Kennedy Airport. Gotti was also rumored to be expanding into drugs, a lucrative trade Castellano had banned.
Yeah, he didn't want nobody doing that.
Right.
Oh, August 1983, Ruggiero and John Gotti were arrested for dealing heroin, based primarily on recordings from a bug in Ruggiero's house.
Gene.
What did I say? I said Gone. Gene Gotti. Castellano banned dealing drugs under threat of death, demanded transcripts of the tapes. And when Ruggiero refused, he threatened to demote Gotti. Gene or John? Right, John. 1984, Castellano was arrested and indicted in a RICO case for the crimes of Gambino hitman Ro DeMeo's crew.
Oh.
The following year, he received a second indictment for his role in the commission.
Really?
The Mafia, yeah, he was on the commission trial.
Facing life in prison for either case, Castellano arranged for Gotti to serve as an acting boss alongside Thomas Bilotti, Castellano's favorite capo, and Thomas Gambino in his absence.
Look at that, a little three-way.
All right. Gotti, meanwhile, began conspiring with fellow disgruntled capos, Frank DeSico and Joseph Joe Piney Armone, soldier Sammy the Bull Gravano, and Robert Dib Di Bernardo. He was also dubbed the Fist. Oh, look at that. He got his own little nickname,
Right.
like the Chin. And
He gets two.
they was like, we're going to overthrow Castellano, insisting that despite the boss inaction, that Castellano would eventually try to kill John Gotti himself.
Yeah, well, Armand's support was critical. As a respected old-timer who dated back to the family's founder, Vincent Mangano,
No shit.
he would lend needed credibility to the conspirators' cause. It had long been a rule in the Mafia that a boss could only be killed with the approval of the majority of the commission. Indeed, Gotti's planned hit would have been the first unsanctioned hit on a boss since Frank Costello nearly killed, he was almost killed by
All right.
the Chin Gigante in 1957.
Yes.
Gotti knew it would be too risky to solicit support from the other four bosses since they had long-standing ties to Castellano.
You ain't kidding.
We've already seen people try to get in on a plot and then go run to the other bosses and tell on them.
To get around not having to go to the commission to murder old Castellano, he got the support of several important figures of the generation, which is Lucchese, Colombo, and Bonanno families, all three of those guys. He did not consider approaching the Genovese family. Castellano's ties with Genovese boss, the Chin Gigante, were so close that any overture to a Genovese soldier would have been a tip-off.
Right.
And Genovese right now is the biggest family, right?
Yeah.
However, Gotti could also count on the complicity of Gambino consigliere Joseph Gallo.
Look at that. He's got everybody. Well, after Della Croce died of cancer December 2nd, 1985, Castellano revised the secession plan, appointing Bilotti as underboss to Thomas Gambino as the sole acting boss.
Like Gotti.
Right, while making plans to break up Gotti's crew. Infuriated by this and by Castellano's refusal to attend Della Croce's wake, Gotti resolved to kill him. When DeCicco tipped off Gotti that he would be having a meeting with Castellano and several other Gambino mobsters at Sparks Steakhouse December 16th, Gotti chose to take this opportunity.
Castellano's a piece of shit. Why would you not go to your own underboss's freaking wake or funeral, asshole?
Right. Yeah, what an idiot. Did it to himself. Yep. Well, both the boss and underboss were ambushed and shot dead by assassins under Gotti's command when they arrived at the meeting at the steakhouse in the evening. Gotti watched the hit from his car alongside Gravano. Nice. We already know what happened there. If you don't remember, go listen to the last episode on Castellano.
Right.
Not going to get into it.
7 days after the murder, Gotti was named to a 3-man committee to temporarily run the Gambino family, pending the election of a new boss, along with Gallo and DeCicco. It was also announced that an internal investigation into Castellano's murder was underway.
All right, they got their own internal affairs in the Mafia, do they?
However, it was an open secret that Gotti was acting boss in all but name.
Right.
And nearly all of the family's capos knew he had been the one who knew he was the one that killed Castellano.
Right.
He was formally acclaimed as the new boss at a meeting of 20 capos held on 15th January 1986. He appointed DeCicco as the new underboss while retaining Gallo as consigliere.
Nice, look at that. Well, identified as both Castellano's likely murderer and his successor, Gotti rose to fame throughout 1986. At the time of his takeover, the Gambino family was regarded as the most powerful American mafia family with an annual income of $500 million.
Damn.
In the book Underboss, Gravano estimated that Gotti himself had an annual income of no less than $5 million during his years as boss,
Right.
and more likely between 10 and 12.
Yeah, I think it's 5.
To protect himself legally, Gotti banned members of the family from accepting plea bargains that acknowledged the existence of the organization. Just because you ban them doesn't mean they're not going to do it.
Right. Gotti often smiled and waved at television cameras at his trials, which gained him favor with some of the general public. His newfound notoriety had at least one positive effect. Upon the revelation of his attacker's occupation, and amid reports of intimidation by the Gambinos, Pajcik decided not to testify against Gotti, thanks to Bosco the Rugo Radnojic, the head of the Westies in Hell's Kitchen. When the trial began in March of 1986, Pajcik testified he was unable to remember who attacked him. He's like, I don't know.
Can't remember.
Well, that case was dismissed, with the New York Post summarizing the proceedings with the headline, I forgot he.
I forgot he. It was later revealed that Gambino mobster had severed Pajcik's brake lines, made threatening phone calls, and stalked him before the trial.
Right.
Of course he did. April 13th, 1986, DeChico was killed in a car bombing following a visit to Castellano loyalist James Falla.
Damn.
The bombing was carried out by Victor Amuzzo and Anthony Casso of the Lucchese family under the orders of Gigante and Lucchese boss Anthony Corallo
Really?
to avenge Castellano and Bellotti by killing their successors.
Whoa.
Gotti also planned to visit Falla that day but canceled, and the bomb was detonated after a soldier who rode with DeChico was mistaken for the boss.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, killed the wrong guy, assholes.
Damn. Bombs had long been banned by the Mafia out of concern that it would put innocent people in harm's way. Leading
Aren't they, gentlemen?
leading the Gambinos to initially suspect that Zips, Sicilian mafioso working in the U.S., were behind it. Zips were well known for using bombs.
Yeah, man.
Following the bombing, Judge Eugene Nickerson presided over Gotti's now ongoing racketeering trial, rescheduled to avoid a jury tainted by the resulting publicity. While Giacalone had Gotti's bail revoked due to evidence of witness intimidation in Pajcik's case.
Yeah. Well, from jail, Gotti ordered the murder of Di Bernardo by Gravano. Both Di Bernardo and Ruggiero had been vying to succeed to Chico until Ruggiero accused Di Bernardo of challenging Gotti's leadership.
Oh, I bet he was.
When Ruggiero, also under indictment, had his bail revoked for abrasive behavior in preliminary hearings, it frustrated Gotti and said promoted Armon to underboss. Jury selection for the racketeering case began again in August 1986 with Gotti standing trial alongside his ex-companion Johnson, who, despite being exposed as an informant, refused to turn state's evidence, though.
Wow.
He was also alongside Leonard De Maria, Tony Rampino, Nicholas Carrazzo, and John Carnaglia for the racketeering case.
Oh, look at that. At this very point, the Gambino family were able to compromise the case when George Pape hid his friendship with Radnojic and was impaneled as juror number 11.
There you go, baby.
Through Radnojic, Pape contacted Gravano and agreed to sell his vote on the jury for $60,000.
Look at that.
In the trial's opening statements on the 25th of September, Gotti's defense attorney, Bruce Cutler, denied the existence of the Gambino family. He's like, I don't even know what that is. And he framed the government's entire effort as a personal vendetta.
I mean, look at this guy. This guy's been walking around making you guys look like fools. You do anything to bring him down.
It's personal now. It's just harassment.
Trying to save your skins because you guys look like idiots on the last two.
His main defense strategy during the prosecution was to attack the credibility of Giacalone's witnesses by discussing their crimes committed before they're turning state evidence.
That's where that bitch messed up.
Right.
She got a bunch of literal murderers and like
these
hardcore
guys would
criminals.
say anything to stay out of prison for
Right.
life.
That's exactly what happened. During Gotti's defense, Cutler called bank robber Matthew Trainer, a would-be prosecution witness dropped for unreliability, who testified that Giacalone offered him drugs and her underwear as a masturbation aid in exchange for his testimony.
Fuck yeah.
Trainer's allegations would be dismissed by Judge Nickerson as wholly unbelievable after the trial, and he was subsequently convicted of perjury. Despite Cutler's defense and critiques about the prosecution's performance, according to mob writers Jerry Capecci and Gene Mustaine, when the jury's deliberations began, a majority were in favor of convicting Gotti.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, they want to get rid of the mob back then. 80s. That was a big thing. However, due to Pape's misconduct, Gotti knew from the beginning of the trial that he could not do no worse than a hung jury.
Yep.
During deliberations, Pape held out for acquittal until the rest of the jury began to fear their own safety would be compromised.
Or compromise. But, Pape's in the thing like, man, they're going to find out who we are. Look what they've already done. He's probably putting fear in everybody, dude.
13th of March, 1987, John Gotti and his co-defendants acquitted of all charges, including loan sharking, illegal gambling, moida, and truck hijackings. 5 years later, Pape, he was convicted of obstruction of justice for his part in the fix and sentenced to 3 years in prison.
I still got the 60 grand. Good for him. It's probably gone by then anyways.
Right.
In the face of previous Mafia convictions, particularly the success of the Mafia Commission trial, Gotti's acquittal was a major upset that further added to his reputation. The American media dubbed him the Teflon Don in reference to the failure of any charges to stick.
Right.
While Gotti himself had escaped conviction, his associates were not as fortunate. The other two men in the Gambino administration, underboss Armone and Concierge Gallo, had been indicted on racketeering charges in 86, and both were convicted in December of 87.
Damn.
Ruggiero and Gene Gotti's heroin trial also commenced in June of that year.
Oh, shit. Prior to the convictions, Gotti allowed Gallo to retire.
Oh, good for him. So he's in good graces. It's like being honorably discharged.
Right, and he promoted Gravano in his place while slating Frank Lucchesio to serve as acting underboss in the event of Armone's imprisonment. The Gambinos also worked to compromise the heroin trials jury, resulting in 2 mistrials. Hey, look at that. When the terminally ill Ruggiero was severed and released in 1989, Gotti refused to contact him, blaming him for the Gambino's family's misfortunes. Oh, they were buds for the longest time. Mm-hmm. According to Gravano, Gotti also considered murdering Ruggiero, and when he finally died, he said, I literally had to drag him to the funeral.
Jeez.
You gotta go, John.
Come on, man. He's your best bud, dude.
You're so pissed when Castellano didn't go to De Croces.
Right. Beginning in January 88, Gotti, against Gravano's advice, required his capos to meet with him at the Ravi Night Social Club once a week. Huh? See? Idiot. Regarded by Gene as an unnecessary vanity-inspired risk, and by FBI Gambino squad leader Bruce Mao as antithetical to the secret society. This move allowed FBI surveillance to record and identify much of the Gambino hierarchy.
Oh, my goodness.
Jeez, idiots. It also provided strong circumstantial evidence that Gotti was a boss. Long-standing protocol in the Mafia requires public demonstrations of loyalty to the boss.
Right.
The FBI also bugged the Ravenite, but failed to produce any high-quality incriminating recordings.
Sorry, Fox. Later, 1988, Gotti, Gigante, and new Lucchese boss, Amuso, attended the first commission meeting since the commission trial. Wow. Located at the La Bar Bat Club in Manhattan. 2 years earlier, Casso had been injured in an unauthorized hit by Gambino capo Mickey Paradiso.
Well, look at Gotti and Gigante in the same room together, huh?
In 1987, the FBI warned Gotti that they had recorded Genovese concierge Luis Amana discussing another hit on Gotti and his brother. In order to avoid a war, the leaders of the 3 families met, denied knowledge of their violence against one another, and agreed to communicate better. We'll communicate better. What violence? We're never going to.
What are you talking about?
We're all in this together. The bosses also agreed to allow Colombo acting boss Victor Orana to join the commission. But Gigante, wary of giving Gotti a majority by admitting another ally, blocked the re-entry of Massino and the Bonanos.
Yeah.
What a dick.
Well, Gotti was also able to influence the New Jersey-based DeCavalcante crime family in 1988. According to the DeCavalcante capo turned informant Anthony Rotondo, Gotti attended his father's wake with numerous other Gambino mobsters in a show of force, and forced boss Giovanni Riggi to agree to run the family on Gambino's behalf.
Oh.
The DeCavalcantes remained in the Gambino's family sphere of influence until Gotti's imprisonment.
Oh, I bet.
Gotti's son, John Jr., was initiated into the Gambino family on Christmas Eve, 1988. It's a hell of a Christmas present, huh?
Right.
According to fellow mobster Michael D. Leonardo, initiated on the same night, Gravano held the ceremony to keep Gotti from being accused of nepotism.
Right.
So we got to get another guy in here,
Right.
too. Well, John Jr. was promptly promoted to capo.
Right. I bet it was. Fantastic. Evening of 23rd January, year 1989. Gotti arrested outside the Ravenite and charged with ordering the 1986 assault of labor union official John O'Connor.
John O'Connor.
John O'Connor. In the back of the police car, he remarked, 3-1, I beat this charge. O'Connor, a leader in the United Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners of America. Fantastic. Local 608, who was later convicted of racketeering himself, was believed to have ordered an attack on a Gambino associated restaurant that had snubbed the union and was subsequently shot and wounded by the Westies.
Oh, jeez. After one night in jail, Gotti was released on a $100,000 bail. He had his occupation listed as a salesman for a plumbing contracting company, yes. By this time, the FBI had cultivated new informants and learned part of the reason the Ravenite bug failed was because Gotti would hold sensitive conversations upstairs.
Right.
Or they say either in a rear hallway in the building the club occupied or an apartment in its upper floors where a friendly widow of a Gambino soldier lived. By November 1989, both locations were bugged.
I bet they were.
And guess what? It's the upstairs one that's going to fuck them over.
All right. The apartment bug was particularly fruitful due to Gotti's frankness as he discussed his position as boss in meetings there.
Dude, this dude, seriously, you got to hear the tapes. This dude is just like free willy-nilly in every fucking thing that the mob ever has done. Like, seriously, dude's dumb.
December 12th conversation with Lacasio, Gotti plainly acknowledged ordering the murders of Di Bernardo and Liborio Melito, the latter being one of Gravano's partners killed for insubordination. Mm-hmm. He also announced his intent to kill soldier Luis de Bono, who had ignored a summons to meet with Gotti to discuss his mismanagement of a drywall business that he held with Gotti and Gravano. The FBI, however, misheard the name drop and failed to warn de Bono, who was murdered on the 4th of October, 1990.
Look at the FBI dropping the ball again.
Right. In another tape meeting on January 4th, 1990, Gotti promoted Gravano to underboss, preferring he'd lead the family if Gotti was convicted in the assault case.
Well, good for him. Well, state prosecutors linked Gotti to the case with a recording of him discussing O'Connor and announcing his intention to bust him up, and the testimony of West Seas gangster James McElroy as well. However, Gotti was acquitted of all 6 assault and conspiracy charges at trial on February 9, 1990.
What the hell?
There we go. Teflon Don, baby. After the trial, there were fireworks displays by locals.
Oh, nice.
Jules J. Bonavolanta, director of the FBI's Organized Crime Division in New York, stated, with all this media coverage, he's beginning to look like a folk hero. What the public should realize is that he's the boss of the largest Cosa Nostra family, that he surrounds himself with ruthless killers, and that he's flat out a criminal.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn.
It's true, guys.
It later emerged that FBI bugs had apparently caught Gotti discussing plans to fix the jury, as he had in the 86-87 racketeering case. Mm-hmm. To the outraged Manhattan District Attorney Robert Morgenthau and State Organized Crime Task Force Chief Ronald Goldstock, the FBI and federal prosecutors chose not to reveal this info to them because they wanted to wait and get him on bigger charges.
Nope.
Morgenthau later said that had he known about these bug conversations, he would have asked for a mistrial.
The FBI withheld it because at the time the FBI had their little thing, and then the New York had like the Gambino Task Squad, and they weren't revealing anything to each other. They were like rivals. They were like fucking trying to see who would get him first, like idiots, dude. Gotti, Gravano, and Lacasio were often recorded by the bugs placed throughout the Ravenite, concealed in the main room, the first floor hallway, and the upstairs apartment, discussing incriminating events. December 11th, 1990, FBI agents and NYPD detectives raided the Ravenite, arresting Gotti, Gravano, and Lacasio. Federal prosecutors charged Gotti in this new racketeering case with 5 moitas. One for Castellano, one for Bellotti, one for Di Bernardo, one for Melito, and after review of the apartment tapes, Louis Di Bono as well. Conspiracy to quit, or also for conspiracy to murder Gaetano Corky Vestola, loan sharking, illegal gambling, obstruction of justice, bribery, and tax evasion. Motherfucker's going down for one of them.
Got to. Based on tapes from FBI bugs played at pretrial hearings, the Gambino administration was denied bail. At this very same time, attorneys Cutler and Gerald Shargle were disqualified from defending Gotti and Gravano after prosecutors successfully contended they were part of the evidence and thus liable to be called as witnesses. Prosecutors argued that Cutler and Shargle not only knew about the potential criminal activity, but had worked as in-house counsel for the Gambino family. Of course,
they're lawyers.
Gotti subsequently hired Albert Krieger, a Miami attorney who had worked with Joseph Bonanno, to replace Cutler. At least he's still got
a mafia guy, right? Well, the tapes also created a rift between Gotti and Gravano, where the Gambino boss described his newly appointed underboss as too greedy and attempted to frame Gravano as the main force behind the murders of Di Bernardo, Melito, and De Bono. Jeez. Gotti's attempt at reconciliation failed, leaving Gravano disillusioned with the mob and doubtful on his chances of winning his case without Shargle, his former attorney.
Oh, wow.
Gravano ultimately opted to turn state's evidence, formally agreeing to testify on November 13th, 1991, and bye-bye Gotti.
Crazy. Well, he was the highest-ranking member of the New York crime family to turn informer until Joseph Massino did in 2003.
He sure did.
Gotti and Lucchesio were tried in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York before Judge I. Leo Glasser. Jury selection began January 1992 with an anonymous jury, and for the very first time in Brooklyn federal case, fully sequestered during the trial due to Gotti's reputation for jury tampering.
Look at you guys, finally learned your fucking lessons.
The trial commenced with the prosecution's opening statements on February 12th. Prosecutors Andrew Maloney and John Gleason began their case by playing tapes showing Gotti discussing Gambino family business, including murders he approved, and confirming the animosity between Gotti and Castellano to establish the former's motive to murder his boss.
Mm-hmm. After calling an eyewitness of the Castellano hit who identified Carneglia as one of the men who shot Bellotti, they then brought Gravano to testify on March 2nd. Imagine that when he was walking in the room.
Right.
On the stand, Gravano confirmed Gotti's place in the structure of the Gambino family and described in detail the conspiracy to assassinate Castellano, giving a full description of the hit and its aftermath. Gravano confessed to 19 murders, implicating Gotti in 4 of them. Krieger and Lucchesio's attorney Anthony Cardinale proved unable to shake Gravano during cross-examination. Dude, he's a fucking stone-cold killer mobster.
Right.
Like you're doing anything to him.
Wow. After additional testimony and tapes, the government rested its case 24th of March. 5 of Krieger and Cardinale's intended 6 witnesses were ruled irrelevant or extraneous, leaving only Gotti's tax attorney, Murray Appleman, to testify.
Well, you know, once a year I saw him
Right.
to get his taxes done. But
The defense also attempted unsuccessfully to have a mistrial declared based on Maloney's closing remarks. Gotti himself became increasingly hostile during the trial, and at one point, Glasser threatened to remove him from the courtroom.
because he knew.
Right. Among other outbursts, Gotti called Gravano a junkie while his attorneys sought to discuss his past steroid use, and equated a dismissal of a juror to the fixing of the 1919 World Series.
Okay.
Wow.
April 2nd, 92. After only 14 hours of deliberation, the jury found Gotti guilty on all charges of the indictment. Lucchesio was found guilty on all but one. James Fox, assistant director in charge of the FBI's New York field office, announced at a press conference, "The Teflon Don is gone. The Don is covered with Velcro, and all the charges stuck." Look at you, motherfucker. Mic drop. Right. June 23rd, 92, Glasser sentenced both defendants to life without the possibility of parole and a $250,000 fine while you're at it.
Cool. Well, Gotti, incarcerated at the United States Penitentiary at Marion, Illinois, spent the majority of his sentence in effective solitary confinement, allowed out of the cell for only 1 hour a day.
Damn.
His final appeal was rejected by the United States Supreme Court in 1994. On July 18th, 1996, a fellow inmate named Walter Johnson punched Gotti in the prison recreation room, leaving him bruised and bleeding. Because according to New York Daily News, Gotti had disrespected him with a racial slur.
Walter Johnson, probably a black guy.
Right.
Gotti, desiring revenge, offered Aryan Brotherhood chieftains David Shahakian and Michael McElhenney somewhere between 40 and 400,000 to have Johnson killed. That was a hell of a discrepancy.
Wow.
In August, McElhenney told 2 Brotherhood underlings to kill Johnson if given the opportunity, according to a federal indictment charging him and 39 other gang members with murder, attempted murder, and racketeering. Johnson, however, was transferred to the Supermax prison in Florence, Colorado.
Oh, yeah, they knew. I gotta get this guy out of there.
That prison in Florida, Colorado, that's got all the big boys in it. Dude.
That's crazy. Despite his imprisonment and pressure from the commission to stand down, Gotti asserted his prerogative to retain his title as boss until his death or retirement, with his brother Peter and his son John Jr. relaying orders on his behalf. By 1998, when he was indicted on racketeering, John Jr. was believed to be the acting boss of the family. Against his father's wishes, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 6 years and 5 months. That was in 1999. He maintains that he has since left the Gambino family, though.
Did he, though?
Peter subsequently became acting boss and is believed to have formally succeeded his brother shortly before Gotti's death.
Look at that. Good for you, John and Peter. John Jr.'s indictment brought further stress to Gotti's marriage. Victoria Gotti, up to that point unaware of her son's involvement in the Mafia, blamed her husband for ruining her son's life and threatened to leave him unless he allowed John Jr. to leave the mob. 1998, okay. John Gotti was diagnosed with throat cancer and sent to the United States Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri for surgery. April 18th, though, 2001, the New York Daily News announced that John Gotti has taken a turn for the worse. They reported that the cancer doctors thought had gone away had returned, and now the Dapper Don was suffering from its advanced stages and was expected to last just 2 months.
Oh, shit. Gotti's lawyer, Joseph Carozzo, told reporters that John was putting up a brave fight Oh, a brave front.
Same thing, right?
He's forced to be in a wheelchair, the attorney stated, but emphasized that Gotti insists on getting about on his own without assistance. John is defiant to the end. Following week, New York Post reported that the medical facility Bureau of Prisons
Buru.
Bureau
Bureau.
the Bureau of Prisons Hospital in Springfield, Missouri, had relaxed its regulations on Gotti, and he was allowed to have limited contact with family members. Oh, that's nice. They stated that he is allowed to hug his wife, his 2 daughters, his son, and other relatives while prison videotape rolls.
Oh, good for them.
Weak from chemo, Gotti was receiving nutrition and medication through intravenous tubes. When not visiting with his family, Gotti still spent most of his time in solitary confinement.
Yeah. The New York Daily News reported June 13, 2001, that John Gotti had lost so much weight that chemotherapy treatments were discontinued. The following day, it was reported that the former Teflon Don was suffering from pneumonia and that shunts which helped deliver medicine into his body, had developed infections around them. An unnamed source said it's a matter of weeks.
Right.
The Gotti family was upset because they were unable to speak with Junior while he was still in transit.
Right.
Okay. Although he was flown to Atlanta in a trip that took a total of 5 hours, the government was giving him the scenic route back, placing him on a prison bus that had stops in 3 different states along the way. Oh, no. What a bunch of dicks.
Right, assholes. Well, Gotti's condition rapidly declined, and he died June 10th, 2002, age 61. The Catholic Diocese of Brooklyn announced that Gotti's family would not be permitted to have a requiem mass. Requiem mass. But they allowed a memorial mass after the burial.
Oh, good for them, huh?
Gotti's funeral was held in a non-church facility. After the funeral, estimated 300 onlookers followed the procession, which passed Gotti's Virgin Hunt and Fish Club, and it went to the gravesite after that. Gotti's body was interred in a crypt next to his son, Frank. Gotti's brother, Peter, was unable to attend because he was in prison himself.
Well, sucks to be him, I guess, huh?
Right.
And an apparent repudiation of Gotti's leadership and legacy, the other New York families sent no representatives to the funeral. What a bunch of assholes. He was still the boss of a damn family.
Right.
Numerous prosecutions triggered by Gotti's tactics left the Gambino families in shambles. By the turn of the century, half the family's made men were in prison.
Wow.
Well, since his conviction, Gotti has been portrayed in 6 television films, 3 documentary series, 3 theatrical films, and been a subject of lyrics and music.
Oh.
He was, it was Getting Gotti, and then there was Gotti, the HBO TV movie, Witness to the Mob, a miniseries. He was in an FBI Files episode. He's also in the Big Heist episode, cool, or American TV movie, Canadian. He was in Boss of Bosses, 2001 TNT movie. He was in Sinatra Club, a 2010 theatrical film portrayed by Danny Nucci. What? The Wannabe, he was also in that. He was in the documentary Mugshots, awesome. He was in the gayest film ever made of Mafia ever. And he was in Gotti, portrayed by John Travolta.
Oh.
There's another TV movie based on a book written by his daughter. And then the most recent, Get Gotti, the 2023 Netflix documentary. Also, though, the Johnny Sacks character from The Sopranos is widely believed to be the representation of John Gotti. Yeah,
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep. So there you go. Oh, well, it wasn't as long as I thought it was going to be. It's only an hour and 12. Shoot. That's John Gotti, folks. It's about probably everything you've heard. Maybe there's something that you won't, but that's the only thing you'll ever hear on him, because that's the story. It's not going to change. He's dead.
That's the story, and they're sticking to it.
Right. Well, no, that's the... Well, yeah. That's the Teflon story, right, baby, of John Gotti. But don't worry. Our Mafia content's not over, because we still got the Gambino family. It doesn't end with John Gotti, because we still got... Maybe we'll do a son if we can find a lot of information, but I bet you we won't. Both of his sons. But we got the present boss, Domenico Italian Dom Cephalou, which we know there's nothing on this guy. So I don't know. But in other news, we got the underbosses, the underlings, I guess. Anthony Ruggiero, maybe Joseph Armone. We definitely got Sammy the Bull. Maybe James Falla, Thomas Bilotti, maybe. Frank DeChico. And probably a lot of other people. I think there was like a Joey Gallo in here somewhere too. Frank Scalise. Did we already think of Scalise? Frankie Scalise. I don't think we. Oh yeah, Joe Gallo. He's there. Yeah, so we got still a few from the Gambino family before we move into the Lucchese's or the other one. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Reminder: first of the month. First episode of the month is going to be Mafia, and then the last episode of each month is our serial killers, and we'll fill the sandwich in with shootings, murders of other stuff, and that's the way we'll be for the foreseeable future. YouTube.com @BangDang Network, Discord link in the description, Spotify, Apple. Leave a review, share us with your friends, and we'll be back next week for some type of murder and the Outlaws and Gunslingers for the month of Michigan. Just be
Bang dang.